A cry in the dark. The jungle was quiet. Too quiet. Rain poured from the sky like it was trying to wash the whole planet away. Thick green leaves dripped water. The ground was soft and muddy. Trees stood like silent guards. In the middle of it, a man walked alone, his boots sinking into the wet earth with every step. His name was Ethan Stone, a human soldier, tough, silent, trained to survive. He was supposed to be scouting for energy signals near the ruins of an old alien outpost. But something strange had happened. He had heard a cry, not the cry of an animal, not the sound of wind or machines. It was a baby's cry. Soft, broken, and scared. At first he thought it was his mind playing tricks, but then he heard it again. High-pitched, weak, echoing between the trees. Ethan paused. "What the hell?" he whispered to himself. He touched the side of his helmet, activating his visor. It scanned the area, no life signs, but the cry kept calling, like it was begging him. He followed it. Through thick vines, fallen branches, and shattered metal walls of an old alien structure. Everything was covered in green moss and glowing blue fungus. Nature had swallowed this place long ago, but something, or someone, was still here. And then he saw it. A cage, rusted, half buried under broken metal and wet leaves. Inside the cage was a shape, small, curled up. He stepped closer, raising his light. There they were. A woman, skin pale purple, soaked and shaking, holding something tightly to her chest. A baby. Ethan froze. The woman looked up. Her eyes, glowing a soft violet, locked with his. She didn't scream. She didn't move. She just held the child tighter, like she thought he might take it away. He moved slowly. "Easy. I'm not going to hurt you." But she didn't understand. Her face was full of pain, exhaustion, fear. The baby made another soft cry. It was so small, so weak. They looked like they hadn't eaten in days. The woman's body was thin. Her hands were trembling. Her clothes were torn and wet. The baby was wrapped in something rough, not a blanket, but pieces of old cloth. "Who did this to you?" Ethan muttered. He knelt near the cage. The lock was broken, but the bars were rusted shut. He used a small plasma cutter from his belt to break it open. Sparks flew. The woman flinched but didn't stop him. As the door opened, she backed away, slightly, still hugging the baby. Ethan reached into his backpack and pulled out a protein bar. He opened it slowly and held it out. She stared at it. Then, slowly, carefully, she reached out and took it. She didn't eat it. She gave it to the baby first. Ethan felt something twist in his chest. This wasn't just a survivor. She was a mother, starving, weak, but still putting her child first. "My God," he whispered. He helped her stand. She winced in pain. Her legs were bruised and swollen. She had probably been caged for days, maybe longer. She couldn't walk on her own. Ethan supported her. The baby rested in a sling on her chest, looking at him with glowing blue eyes, scared yet curious. As they stepped out of the ruins, a sudden noise made Ethan stop. Rustling, leaves, movement. Fast. His hand went to his rifle. He looked around, scanning the trees. But he saw nothing. Still, his instincts told him they weren't alone. Whoever had locked that woman in a cage might still be nearby, and they might want her back. He picked up the pace. "Come on," he said. "We're getting out of here." The woman didn't understand his words, but she understood his voice, his urgency. She tried to move faster, leaning on him for strength. The rain got heavier. Thunder rolled above. But Ethan didn't stop. He had found something he didn't expect. Not a weapon, not a threat, but a mother and her baby, thrown away like trash. Forgotten, but not by him. As they disappeared into the jungle, The baby gave a soft cry again. This time. Ethan didn't ignore it. He held his weapon tight, his eyes sharp. He didn't know who they were. He didn't know why they were left to rot, but he would find out, because now he was part of their story. The widow's eyes. The storm didn't stop. Rain fell like knives from the sky, soaking the leaves, the trees, and the 3 lives struggling through the jungle. 1 man, 1 woman, and a child that barely made a sound. Ethan's arms ached from holding her up. The alien mother could barely walk. Her steps were slow, weak, but she never let go of her child. Not once. Every few minutes, Ethan glanced down at her. Her skin was still cold, her lips dry and cracked. Her eyes stayed low, watching the ground, but then for the first time she looked at him. Really looked. Her eyes met his. Not with fear, not with anger. With something else. Something Ethan couldn't name at first. It wasn't trust. It was hope, and it hit him harder than any battlefield explosion. He led them to an old scout shelter, hidden deep in the trees, covered in vines. A place only soldiers like him would know. It wasn't much. Just metal walls, a roof, and an old heat lamp still working off backup power. The moment they stepped inside, Ethan locked the door and placed his rifle nearby. Then he turned to help the woman sit down. She sat slowly, holding her baby close, like the world might steal him if she blinked. The baby whimpered, a dry, tired sound. Ethan handed over a water bottle. She didn't understand at first, until he poured a little into the cap and gently offered it. She sniffed it. Then, carefully, she gave it to the baby, and again, Ethan saw it. She always gave everything to the child first. As the heat lamp warmed the room, Ethan unwrapped a ration pack. He placed it near her, then took a few steps back to give her space. She didn't eat right away. Instead, she studied him. Her violet eyes moved slowly over his face, his gear, his weapon, his hands. And then, without a word, she did something strange. She pointed at his chest, then at herself, then at the baby. Ethan frowned. What? She repeated the motion. Chest, herself, the child. Then she touched her heart, twice, like a signal, a message. Ethan's eyes narrowed. He pulled out a small notepad and drew a stick figure, a man, then one of her, then the baby. He held it up. She looked at it and slowly nodded. She pointed at the baby and whispered something in her own language. One word. Cayenne. Ethan repeated it. Cayenne? She nodded. Her voice was soft. Cayenne. The child. Then she touched her chest. Vera. Her name. Vera. Ethan gave a small smile. I'm Ethan. She tilted her head. Ethan. He repeated slower. She tried it. Tan. Close enough. An hour passed. The baby slept. Vera finally ate. And Ethan checked the door sensors. But something still bothered him. Why was she locked in that cage? Why? That deep in the jungle? Why no other life signs near the outpost? Then he noticed something else. On her back, beneath the torn cloth, was a scar. Big. Burned. Like someone had branded her. He didn't ask. He didn't need to. She had been marked. Marked and discarded. And the baby? The baby was likely seen as a burden, or worse, a threat. Maybe she had once belonged to a royal family, a clan, a tribe. But someone had wanted her gone, left to die. Only one thing stood between her and death now. A human. That night, Ethan heard something, a sound outside. Small, quick. He stood, picked up his rifle and walked to the door. Nothing showed on the sensor, but his instincts were sharp. He opened the hatch just a crack and looked out. Nothing. Then he turned back. Vera was standing now, barely steady, holding Cayenne tighter. Her eyes were wide, not in fear but warning. She pointed to the wall. Ethan followed her gaze. There, glowing faintly on the outside of the shelter, was a symbol, a rough claw mark, fresh, not natural. Someone was watching, not a beast, not an animal, a hunter. Ethan sealed the door. We're not alone. Vera didn't speak, but the way she held her child said everything. Ethan sat beside the door, rifle ready, eyes on the dark jungle outside. He didn't know who they were. He didn't know why they wanted her gone. But tonight, no one was taking them, not while he was breathing, and not while the child slept soundly, warm at last, in the arms of the woman who never stopped fighting for him, chased through the rain. The jungle never slept. Even when the rain softened and the clouds moved on, the forest whispered in strange voices, dripping leaves, distant animal calls, and the steady hum of things unseen. Inside the metal shelter, the fire in the small heating unit burned low. Vera sat with Cayenne in her arms, wrapped in Ethan's old field jacket. The baby's breathing was slow now, calm, safe. But Ethan couldn't sleep. That mark on the wall, the claw. It wasn't random. He had seen signs like that before. Hunters, but not human, not even local to this world. These were the kind of monsters who didn't just kill. They collected slavers, raiders, rogue factions, people who sold others for part or power. Ethan's gut twisted. He loaded his rifle quietly. He didn't know Vera's full story, but whatever she escaped from, it was still hunting her, and now him too. Just before dawn, Vera sat up straight. She heard it before Ethan did. Her hearing was sharper. A single snap of a twig outside. She looked at him. No words, only her eyes, wide and alert, told him everything. Ethan stood quickly. Grab him. We're leaving. Vera didn't ask why. She moved fast. She wrapped Cain in the jacket, held him tight, and followed Ethan out the back hatch of the shelter. The moment the door shut behind them, Ethan tapped a small device on the wall. A soft beep, then silence, booby trap armed. If anyone came in behind them, the whole shelter would explode. They moved fast through the trees, feet sinking into soft earth. Dawn broke slowly, casting silver light through the fog. Vera struggled, but didn't stop. Ethan kept checking their rear. No signs, no movement, but he felt it, like heat behind his neck, like a shadow just out of reach. They were being watched, followed. Suddenly, a whistle cut through the air. Not a bird, not an animal. A signal. Ethan's eyes narrowed. They're close. They reached an old cargo road, broken stone and dirt, covered in moss. It led to the cliffs near the river. Ethan had been there once years ago. A dead zone. No tech, no signal, no help. But it had caves, and maybe that's what they needed now. They moved downhill quickly. Vera stumbled. Ethan caught her. Almost there, he said, even though he didn't know if that was true. Then he heard it. Footsteps. Fast, heavy, close. He spun around, raising his rifle. A figure appeared behind the trees, tall, thin, wearing armor that looked like bone and metal fused together. A helmet with glowing red lines, a long blade in one hand. Not human, not friendly. The hunter had found them. Ethan didn't wait. He fired 3 quick shots. The hunter dodged like liquid shadow. One bullet grazed its shoulder, the rest hit trees. The hunter didn't slow down. Vera screamed as Ethan grabbed her arm and pulled her into the brush. "We need cover!" They ducked beneath thick roots and ran deeper into the forest. Branches whipped their faces. Cayenne cried, but Vera held him close and whispered something in her language, soft and soothing. They reached the cliffside just as another figure stepped into view. This one smaller, faster, with strange glowing blades in both hands. Ethan aimed again, fired, missed. They were being surrounded. "This is bad," Ethan muttered, "really bad." He spotted a narrow crack in the cliff wall, a hidden cave entrance. He pushed Vera forward. Inside and now! They slipped into the dark, cold stone tunnel just as something sharp sliced through the air behind them. A hunter's blade. Missing. Ethan's back by inches. They ran into the darkness. Inside, the tunnel curved left and opened into a wide cavern. Silent. Empty. Safe. For now. Ethan dropped to one knee, catching his breath. Vera sank to the ground, holding Cayenne close. The child cried once, then went quiet, sensing the danger. Ethan pulled a flare from his belt and lit it. Red light painted the walls like blood. Then he turned to Vera. "Who are they?" he asked. She didn't answer at first. Then she pulled back her sleeve and showed him her arm. A symbol was burned into her skin. A royal mark, and beside it, a different mark, the hunter's brand. Ethan stared at it. "Slavers?" he asked. Vera nodded once, eyes full of pain. They hadn't just wanted her. They had owned her until she escaped, and now they wanted her back. Ethan stood up slowly, his jaw tight. No comms, no backup, no time. But one thing was clear now. This wasn't a rescue mission anymore. It was a war, and he wasn't letting them take that baby. Not while he was still alive. The hidden camp, the cave was silent now. Only the soft breathing of the baby filled the cold air. The red glow of Ethan's flare painted Vera's face in flickers. She sat against the rough stone wall, her eyes closed, body shaking with exhaustion. But she refused to sleep. Ethan stood near the entrance, holding his rifle like a part of his own arm. His ears listened for echoes. His eyes searched the darkness. He didn't trust the silence. It felt too quiet, like the jungle outside was holding its breath, like something was waiting, watching. He turned to look at the mother and child again. Cayenne had fallen asleep on Vera's chest, his tiny arms wrapped tight. Vera wasn't just a survivor. She was something more. She had been hunted, caged, branded, and yet she still protected that child with every last breath in her. Ethan finally asked the question, "Who were you before all this?" She didn't reply with words. Instead, she pulled something from beneath the cloth wrapped around her waist, a thin metal shard, roughly shaped like a necklace, bent, broken, but still glowing faintly with purple light. She held it out to him. He took it carefully. There was a symbol on it, 2 circles, one inside the other, surrounded by curved alien letters. Ethan's eyes widened. "I've seen this before," he whispered, "back at the embassy archives. It was a royal seal." Vera looked at him. Her lips trembled. She placed a finger on the center of the necklace, then touched her chest. She was royalty. No, not just royalty, a queen's consort. Maybe even a queen herself. Ethan sat down across from her. The cave air was damp, but it felt safer than outside. "You were part of the monarchy," he said slowly. "And they turned on you?" Vera nodded. She drew on the ground using her finger, small shapes in the dust. She made a tall figure, then drew a smaller one beside it. Then she crossed the tall one out with a single line. Her mate was gone. Then she drew many other figures around her, holding spears, angry faces. She circled herself and the baby, then pointed at the hunter's mark on her arm. The message was clear. Her mate had died. Power shifted. The new rulers saw her child as a threat, an heir to the old bloodline, so they handed her over to slavers. Kill the mother, erase the line, rule without question. Only it didn't work. She escaped. But not without scars. Thunder cracked faintly outside. The cave trembled. Ethan looked up at the ceiling. This place won't hold forever. He glanced back at Vera. She was feeding Cayenne now with one of the ration tubes. The baby drank slowly, his glow returning faintly. Ethan ran a hand through his wet hair. "So now I'm stuck in a cave," he muttered, "with a royal fugitive, her half-starved alien baby, and a group of space butchers who want their prize back." He looked at her again. And I still have no idea why I haven't walked away. Vera spoke then. Just one word. Soft, but clear. Why? Ethan blinked. What? She placed a hand on her heart, then pointed at him. Why? She repeated, then pointed at Kyan. Why? She was asking why he stayed, why he risked his life, why he didn't just leave them in that cage. Ethan stared at her for a long time. He didn't answer right away. Then finally, I heard him cry. His voice was quiet. That's it. That's all it took. Suddenly a faint noise outside. A soft crunch of leaves. Ethan stood immediately. He motioned for Vera to stay quiet. She pulled Kayan close and held her breath. Footsteps. More than one. Getting closer. Ethan pressed his back to the wall, aiming his rifle toward the cave mouth. He clicked the safety off. But then, a new sound. Not alien. Not hunter. A human voice on, an old radio frequency. Recon Team 4, we picked up an explosion near Outpost Echo. Movement heading northwest, sending drone for visual. Ethan's eyes widened. He activated his headset. This is Sergeant Ethan Stone. I've got survivors. Repeat, survivors, I need extraction now. The voice crackled. Sergeant Stone, you're supposed to be dead. Not yet, Ethan growled. But I will be if you don't get here fast. He turned back to Vera. We've got a chance. But we have to move. Vera looked unsure. Ethan stepped forward, reached out his hand. I promise. I'll get you out. Both of you. She looked at his hand. Her own was shaking. Then, slowly, she placed hers in his. Not as a prisoner, not as a queen, but as a mother, trusting a man who had no reason to help, except that he chose to. Together, they stepped back out into the jungle, a soldier, a widow, and a child whose future now depended on the man who heard his cry in the dark. They came for the child. The sky turned blood orange as the sun rose behind the trees. Birds didn't sing. The wind didn't blow. Everything in the jungle felt wrong. Like it knew something terrible was coming. Ethan moved quickly, guiding Vera and baby Kayan through narrow animal paths. His grip on his rifle was tight. His mind raced. The distress signal he sent was weak. Could take hours, could be ignored, maybe even intercepted. They needed shelter. Again. But more than that, they needed time to think, to breathe, to prepare. But the enemy didn't care about time. The enemy was already moving. They didn't come like soldiers. No loud engines, no bright ships. They came quiet, like ghosts, through the trees, over the rocks, climbing, watching, waiting. Their armor blended with the jungle, skin-colored metal, tribal bone pieces, red glowing eyes. Ethan spotted one in the trees, then another, then 5 more. They were circling. He turned to Vera. Run. Take him. Find the riverbank we crossed. Hide near the stones. I'll come for you. She shook her head, eyes wide with fear. No, not leave. Ethan stepped forward. I will find you, but I need you both safe. Please. Her lips trembled. Then, slowly, she ran. Kayin let out a soft cry, but Vera hushed him gently, vanishing behind thick vines. Ethan turned and faced them. The first hunter dropped from a tree, tall, silent, blade in each hand. Ethan didn't hesitate. Bang. The bullet hit square, in the chest, but the hunter didn't fall. It only staggered, armor cracking. Another leapt forward. Ethan rolled to the side, shot again. This one hit the leg. The alien screamed, stumbling. But there were more. Too many. Ethan backed up, heart pounding, mind cold. He wasn't fighting to win. He was fighting to buy seconds. Seconds for Vera and Kayan. He threw a flash bomb. White light exploded. He ran. Branches. Cut his arms. Blood on his face. He didn't care. He needed to draw them away. Meanwhile, Vera reached the riverbank. She ducked beneath a shelf of wet stone. Kayan tucked against her chest. His little hands gripped her shirt. He didn't cry. Somehow, he knew. He was learning what it meant to survive, just like his mother. Back in the jungle, Ethan stumbled into a small clearing, too open, too late. One hunter stood ahead of him, another behind. Trapped. The lead one removed his helmet. His face was pale gray, scarred, almost human, but wrong. His teeth were sharp, eyes glowing red. "You've stolen royal property, soldier," he hissed. Ethan aimed his gun. The alien laughed. "The child is not yours. He's not yours either. You don't know what that boy is. He's not just an heir, he's a weapon, a key. To what? To war." The hunter lunged, Ethan fired and missed, then kicked the alien hard in the chest. They fought. Blades, fists, teeth, rage. But Ethan was outmatched. He was tired, bleeding, slower. The hunter pinned him down. "You think this is about saving them?" The alien whispered. "That child was never meant to live." A blade rose. Ethan closed his eyes. Then, boom. A shockwave knocked them both back. The second hunter fell, shot clean through the skull. Ethan turned, coughing. At the edge of the trees, Vera, holding Ethan's backup pistol with shaking hands. She didn't wait for thanks. She ran to him, pulled him up. "We go now." Ethan stared at her. This fragile, starved, hunted woman, now standing like a queen. And he nodded. "Yeah, we go." They fled together, disappearing into the trees as the last of the hunters howled. Behind them, the jungle closed, and for now, they were still alive. The bond of blood, the cave was dark again. Not the first one. A new one, hidden behind a waterfall deep in the cliffs. The sound of rushing water masked their breath, their footsteps, and even their fear. They were safe. For now. Ethan sat near the cave wall, patching a cut on his arm. Blood had dried into his sleeve. His body ached. His ribs were bruised. His legs were shaking, but he was alive because Vera had come back, because she had picked up that pistol with shaking fingers and pulled the trigger. She could have run. She didn't. Vera sat across from him, legs crossed, Cayenne in her lap. The child slept now, chest rising and falling gently. Vera's eyes were heavy, but she didn't close them. She looked at Ethan, studied his wounds, the dirt on his face, the way he clenched his jaw to hide the pain. Then, she whispered a word, in her language. He didn't understand it. But she placed a hand on her heart, then reached forward, carefully, and touched his chest, just once. Fingers trembling, like she was saying, "You are now one of us." Ethan didn't speak. He looked at her hand on his chest, then at the sleeping child. And then he nodded, slowly. Later, when the moonlight filtered in through the waterfall, Vera did something Ethan didn't expect. She unwrapped the cloth from around Cayenne's chest and revealed something glowing beneath. Not just skin, not just light. A mark. Faint, but alive, pulsing gently like a heartbeat of light. A symbol. Ethan leaned closer. "What is that?" Vera didn't answer with words. She dipped her finger in the wet clay of the cave floor and began to draw on the wall. A circle, then lines, a star, and finally, a figure with arms out, one side human, one side alien. She pointed to Cayenne's mark, then to the drawing. Ethan sat back. "You mean, he's the bridge?" She looked at him and nodded once. It wasn't just a royal child. Cayenne was something more. Half human, half alien, a child made by bloodlines that were never meant to mix. A child with both sides of a broken galaxy inside him, and, maybe, the only one who could heal it. Ethan let out a long breath. No wonder the hunters were after him. To the slavers, Cayenne was a prize. To the royals, a threat. To both sides, a mistake. But to Vera, he was everything. And to Ethan, he was starting to feel the same. That night, they didn't speak much. But when Ethan started drifting to sleep, He felt something strange. A small hand on his wrist. Tiny fingers. Kyan had crawled closer and was holding his arm, eyes still closed. A silent bond. No words needed. Morning came. The sun rose through the waterfall, casting golden light across the stone walls. Ethan woke first. He looked at the child still sleeping against him, then at Vera, curled up nearby. He smiled slightly, then stood, quietly. He stepped outside the waterfall, just for a moment, to breathe, to think, to plan their next move. But when he looked down the valley, his smile vanished. Smoke, in the far distance, rising into the sky, and ships, human ships, but not friendly. Something worse was coming, not just hunters, not just slavers, but the ones who paid them all, the royals themselves. They wanted the child gone, permanently. And now, they knew exactly where he was. Ethan turned and walked back into the cave, heart pounding. He wasn't a soldier on a mission anymore. He was a guardian, of a queen without a crown, and a child who might be the key to peace or war. He picked up his rifle and whispered to himself, "I protect them or I die trying." The cry that saved a race. The sound came before the sky changed, a low hum, not birds, not wind, not rain, a deep vibrating hum of power, the kind that made your bones feel heavy. Ethan looked up. Through the curtain of the waterfall, the sky above the jungle shimmered. They were here, not hunters this time, not slaves. Ships, big, beautiful, deadly, crafts of the royal bloodlines. White metal wings with glowing golden lights, shaped like birds of fire. But they didn't come to negotiate. They came to a race. Vera stood behind Ethan, Kyan pressed against her shoulder. She didn't ask what the ships meant. She knew. She could feel it in her bones. In the cold silence that followed, they had found her, found him. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was extermination. One child, one bloodline, one future erased, before it could even begin. Ethan loaded his last magazine into his rifle. There was no backup coming. No army behind him, no escape path, just one cave, one child, and one man too stubborn to give up. "Take him," he told Vera. "If they find us, I'll distract them. You run. Don't stop." But Vera didn't move. Instead, she took a deep breath. She held Kyan tight, stepped forward, and said her first full sentence in broken English. "We run. No more." Ethan stared at her, then slowly nodded. "All right then," he muttered. "We make our stand." The first drop pod landed with a crash outside the waterfall. 6 soldiers in white armor stepped out, alien elites, genetically shaped for speed and strength. They scanned the area. Their helmets clicked and beeped. Their leader raised a glowing spear. "Bring me the child," he said coldly. "Alive or broken?" Ethan stepped out first, gun in hand, alone. "Looking for someone," he said. The soldiers raised their weapons. But Ethan didn't fire. He looked up at the cliff above them, where he had placed his final surprise. He clicked a small remote in his hand. Boom. Rocks exploded. Dust flew. The waterfall collapsed behind, him sealing the cave and buying time for Vera. 2 of the soldiers were buried in rubble. The others staggered. Ethan charged. The fight was brutal, up close. Bloody, Ethan fought like a man with nothing to lose. He used the jungle itself. Vines, mud, branches had to confuse and trap them. But still, there were too many. He was knocked down, kicked, beaten. A blade pierced his shoulder. His vision blurred, but he didn't let go of the detonator, not until he saw it. Light. Not from the sun, not from the ships, from the jungle. A soft violet glow. Like starlight through leaves. Vera, holding Kyan, walking into the clearing. The soldiers stopped. One of them shouted, "Get the child." But then, something strange happened. Kyan looked up. His tiny eyes glowed brighter than before, blue and violet together, pulsing. The soldiers paused. Their scanners began to spark. Their weapons flickered. Their helmets shut down. Cain cried, but not like a baby, like something ancient, like a voice from two bloodlines speaking as one, a cry that carried through the trees, through the air, through every sensor and screen, and far, far above, in the royal ships. The generals paused, the systems froze, and the queen herself, watching from her throne, felt something ripple through her bones. The cry wasn't just sound, it was signal, DNA, energy, memory, a key, and it unlocked something no one expected. Peace. The soldiers dropped their weapons. Some fell to their knees. Others just stared, lost. Ethan looked up, coughing blood, stunned. Vera stood tall, no longer a broken widow, a queen reborn. And Cain, he wasn't just a baby anymore, he was a symbol, the one who could walk between worlds. Hours later, as med ships arrived and soldiers bowed, Ethan sat under a tree, blood drying on his hands. A high-ranking officer approached. "You have no idea what that child means to the galaxy," he said. Ethan looked at Vera and Cain, standing together under the rising sun. He smiled, weak but proud. "Yeah," he said, "I do." And it all started with one cry in the dark.